Today we're going to cover a really exciting topic. What is that? That is empathy. I'm so excited about talking about this. Being an empath, being an empath, being an empath. Oh, I'm an empath. Do I say it often? No, I do not. Why? Because it always sounds like you're bragging, which to me is funny. Because if you were an empath, you would understand that it is not a brag at all. It is a pain in the ass. It is not fun. It is not desirable. And the only people that tend to know that are empaths, because everyone else, for some reason, thinks it is something to brag about. And it's not. Okay, so let's get into it. We are going to dive into the 10 key traits that could reveal whether you are an empath. Most people are not. That is the humble brag. So you're going to want to stick around to see if these sound like you, because the answers might surprise you. As a matter of fact, they are going to surprise you. I feel like I could create my YouTube videos off of comments that I get in my comments section. This YouTube video is dedicated to the gentleman who decided that I was not an empath once I told him that he didn't have to watch my videos. He didn't like that.
I don't claim to be an empath and just kick people to the curb, as this influencer does. How narcissistic do you need to be to announce to the world that you are an empath? How insecure.
He said he won't be praying for me. They weren't the nicest comments, but I understand that I have chosen a topic that can be very sensitive. I stepped into this project understanding that if my feelings were going to be easily hurt, I shouldn't be doing this. This gentleman was very offended by my profanity.
Saren, you are obviously a terrible example to young people. You will corrupt them.
That was also a question I asked myself before I started this channel. Do I want to not use profanity, or do I want to just be myself? I think that we are starved for authenticity. Using profanity, it's not something that I feel is a judge of morality. We have wolves who speak sweetly to hide their fangs in order to hide who they are underneath. And on the other side, we have people who, use profanity and they have the best hearts in the world. If I have to explain it, it's probably not the channel for you. And the people who are offended by it won't stay. And I have it structured that way because I want to build a tribe of people that I don't have to pretend around. If you don't like it, you don't have to be here. All right, so being an empath. Being an empath and having empathy are not the same thing. An example of empathy. You see a lady crossing the street and it's raining outside. You're in your car and you happen to have an umbrella in your back seat. Something makes you get out of the car, stop the car, give this lady your umbrella because you remembered a time that you and your kid were walking in the rain and what it felt like. I'm going to give her an umbrella because I know what that feels like. Putting yourself in somebody's shoes and decide to help them because of being able to relate to that. That's having empathy. Being an empath, I'm going to give you an example. Say there is a house that's on fire. There is a family that's trapped inside, a father and his 2 kids, and you have firefighters ready to go into the house, stop the fire and save the family. I'm one of the firefighters, and there are 2 other firefighters. Is that enough? 3 firefighters? Is that realistic? We run into the house and there's smoke everywhere, smoke and fire, so we can't really see anything. We see the family across the room. We got to figure out how to get there. So what happens is I discover that I have a puncture in my protective suiting that's protecting me from the heat and from the smoke. The smoke from the room is entering into my suit and into my lungs. We see the family across the room coughing and grimacing and struggling to breathe. So you have 2 firefighters that are able to look at this family and say, they're in trouble. They can see how much trouble these people are in. With me, because the smoke is entering into my suit, I am inhaling that smoke. Now I'm starting to struggle to breathe. So now I'm having difficulty breathing. There is a positive and a negative of this. Because I am experiencing it, I may understand quicker than those other 2 firefighters what it is they need right away. On the negative side, because I am now struggling too, I may be a little less effective than the firefighters that are not struggling to breathe as well. So empathy is I can put myself in their shoes and help them based on understanding what they're going through. Whereas an empath, you take in others' energy whether you want to or not. You don't even have to like the person. You take on the weight of others. It is almost like they enter into you without an invitation. It is not just humans, it can be nature, it can be animals. It feels more like a violation than anything. A lot of people have the ability to have empathy. Empathy is a feeling. Empathy is something that I believe can be taught. Being an empath. I have been an empath since I was a child. For as long as I can remember, for as long as my parents can remember, I have had the burden and the weight and the loneliness that comes from being an empath. So I'll explain that to you. I think I was 4 or 5. My mom tells me this story. And I remember this story. I used to get really emotional as a child around certain trees. I used to get really upset thinking about leaves on trees not being able to be loved individually. Thinking about how no one would be able to love the leaves and appreciate the beauty of each leaf and be sad for the leaves. And although that might sound silly, or it might sound like it's, Saren, that's the stupidest thing I've heard. As a kid, dealing with something that's really important to you and a weight to you, little things like that are things that bother little empaths in training. Animals. I've never been close to unaliving myself. The closest I've ever been to not wanting to be around anymore has been a result of accidentally seeing something happening to an animal at the hands of a human. And it does something to me that takes me into a darkness for a long, long period of time. It's the reason I can't have a dog. For some reason, I have a sensitivity to dogs. There was a time I saw a video on social media. There was some dog that got left. It was like 2 or 3 hours away. Some family left the dog on the side of the street, and it was on social media. I couldn't figure out where this dog was that they dropped off. They just left it outside, but someone somewhere put where this happened, and I got in my car and drove to where it was to find this dog. Not to keep it, because I would not keep a dog, but to take it and figure out what to do. I was so bothered, I couldn't sleep. I drove to where that social media post was in hopes that I would be able to track the dog down. And I did. And the dog ended up at a shelter. I stayed there until somebody adopted the dog. Being an empath is not a choice. It's not a choice, and it might be something that people think you brag about. Like, oh, I'm an empath. Oh, I have a doctorate degree. It might sound like that when people say it, and I tend to not say it. It sounds like a brag, and it's not, because I would not choose this. I would not choose this again. It has burned me out. Being an empath is you walking into a room and you bring in the heaviest energies. It may not be everybody, but it's the heaviest energies that enter you without your permission. You don't have to like the person either. That's the thing. You don't have to like the person to feel the pain. It's draining, and it can cause burnout and isolation, especially if it's not managed right and you don't have the right boundaries for it. 3, empaths usually have comorbidities. So if you're an empath, there is a good chance that you are not just an empath. You are not just sensitive to people's energies. Most empaths have other problems. So I don't know if you'd call them problems, but most empaths have other sensitivities. So a lot of empaths are also highly sensitive people, okay, known as HSPs. So we are highly sensitive to other things too. So not only sensitive to humans and animals and trees and, anything that we believe has a soul or is alive or can feel pain. Empaths also have sensitivities to things like light, weather. These things can affect your mood. The weather outside, the temperatures, inside and outside, can affect a person's mood, a person's feelings really heavily. Crowds, sounds, music. You are hypersensitive and you have a lot of uninvited guests. Everything can be heavy. And a lot of people misinterpret or misunderstand empaths, or let's say misunderstand sensitive people as weak people. Being sensitive, if you're a highly sensitive person, that is not synonymous with being weak. Just as being an empath is not synonymous with being nice or sweet or endlessly patient. Okay, we'll cover that in a second. A lot of people think if you're highly sensitive, you are a weak person, which is not true at all. Number 4, being an empath is not synonymous with being nice. I don't have to tolerate disrespect just because I'm attuned to pain. Empaths are allowed to have boundaries. Being an empath does not mean you have endless patience. That's one of the things that people think, they go together, but they don't. They don't. Being an empath does not mean you're Mother Teresa. 5, being an empath doesn't mean you like people. Because again, I'm not a people person, even though I can feel them and I am very attuned to their pain. To take it further, we can feel spite. This is our problem. It's not theirs. But a lot of times the spite we feel for people is because it's a weight that we can't get rid of. So you do something like me and barricade yourself in your house so you're not around humans, so you don't have to deal with that weight. You don't have to deal with always being around people and feeling the need to get rid of their pain so I can rest. 6, being an empath can be rooted in selfishness. A lot of times, the motivator to helping and solving problems and addressing people's problems is not just to take their pain away, but it's also to relieve your own pain that's caused by it. For instance, the story of the dog, when I had to get up and drive 3 hours to go find this dog to make sure he was okay, I had to do it because I couldn't rest. I couldn't sleep. If I'm doing this because I can't rest, that's for me to relieve my own pain. So was it about the dog or was it about me? I would say the closest to feeling that way is how you feel about your children when your child is sick or in pain. That feeling that I'm not a parent, but I'm assuming that it's something like that. So there's part of you that like your kid drives you up the wall, but then that other part of you that can't rest knowing something's wrong with them. You feel it. You feel it on a level to where you see it in front of your face. If you imagined anything happening to your child, it's like you can see it with your eyeballs. You can feel what they are feeling, even if they're not right there. So that's the closest thing. That thought of, I hate what I feel right now. I hate being scared for my child. I need to fix this so I can move on with my own life. So it's kind of like it gets in the way sometimes because you can't even do your own thing until you figure it out for them. All right, 7, being an empath does not mean you're superior. In the fire example, where my 2 partners were more effective because they had that boundary, they had that protection, they were able to fight the fire with more power and more focus because they were not also distracted by that smoke entering their suit. Again, I might have access to knowing what they need more and how to connect with them more, but I may be less effective because I don't have that same boundary that the people who have the fully sealed protective suit. A lot of times with empathy, you have to have a healthy boundary. 8, being an empath gets old. You cannot get rid of it. It can be a very, dare I say, spiritual experience. I don't even know if I should say that word on this page. I don't want to say a psychic experience, but it can be a very, I don't know, you feel connected. You can't get rid of it. You can't decide not to be an empath and not to absorb energy. And that too can be why you maybe get impatient if you're unhealthy about it. After years and years of having that, you feel like you don't own yourself. And you feel like a lot of times you're not made up of your own energy. You're just made up of different people's energy. And it's just a ball of foreign energy inside of you. you don't know what's yours anymore. It can lead to burnout. You don't want to interact. You don't want to be in big crowds. It can be an incredible tool if you know how to create your boundaries with it. That's when it turns magical, is when you can be healthy. And you can be healthy about being an empath. But not everybody's healthy. 9, gift or curse. The healthy versus unhealthy empath. I've been both. I've probably been more unhealthy than healthy. I probably would have been a veterinarian if I had the heart to be around animals that were suffering. Because in a way, I feel like I care more about animals than humans, but I just don't think I could survive. If I knew where all the neglected, abused animals were, I would literally give my life up and go find all of them. Sometimes just the thought that we would never be able to protect all of our animals, and that somewhere right now there's an animal that's being abused, and it's always happening. Sometimes I go down that road in my head and I just go into such a dark place, and I just get lost in this rabbit hole of sorrow and this endless sadness of like, it's happening right now and I don't know where this animal is. If I had had boundaries, I could have really used that tool, but I couldn't face it. It was too painful to face. I chose, nursing and helping humans instead, because I hate to say it, but it's easier to handle sick humans than sick animals. Sounds terrible. Number 10, what is an empath's true gift? The true magic in being an empath is 2 things. Healthy boundaries. Once that smoke starts to come into your fire suit, you plug that hole. You plug the puncture. You now feel it. You share that, but you got to plug the puncture so you can fight the fire as well as your partners are fighting the fire. Okay, so healthy boundaries so you don't lose effectiveness. You don't lose your gusto. The second part is you have that extra motivation to help, because I can't relieve myself until I help this other person. And I don't always do it. I mean, you can't, but that's the feeling of it. The other part of the magic is just having those extra tools and more of an understanding of what to do when you feel it yourself. The combination of those can be what the true magic is of being an empath, but it is not better. If I could do it over again, would I be an empath? No, I would not. I feel that it's been more of a burden than it's been healthy, or that it's been beneficial. I think that it can be amazing if you use it as the tool it was intended. You wish you could help, but at a distance. I want to be able to help and not absorb. You stay there and I'll help you from here, but let's not enter into each other's personal space. I never really feel like I have personal space. Tell me what you guys think. I'm really excited because this is a part 1 to a part 1 of 2 videos. I'm going to be dropping a video next week that is the second half. Let me know in the comments. I don't think I said a bad word, did I? I don't know, but let me know if I did. Let me know how many times I cursed, and I will start a jar. I will start a cursing jar, and then maybe at some point we'll do something, and we'll start a cursing fund, and we'll pull a lottery ticket and I'll send it to someone. Who knows? I don't know what we'll do, but tell me how many times I profaned. I don't know what verb is profanity. Maybe not more importantly, but just as important. Let me know what you think about our list, our 10 things. Are you an empath, or do you have empathy? There is no winning, okay? Not one over the other, but I want to know who my people are. I want to know whether you're an empath, whether you have empathy. This is about being a human, how we connect, and just this messy life, this beautiful, messy puzzle of a life that we all go through. And I don't know if my fan is going to watch this video, but if he does, I hope this answers his question. I don't match his definition of an empath, but I'm sure some people match his definition, but they might not necessarily be an empath. They may just be a really kind, nice, patient person, but I am not patient, and I'm not always kind, that's for sure. I do usually have a good heart and, try to do unto others what I would like done to and for me. So I love you guys, and let's get that cursing jar going so, I can start working on not being such a Sinner.
They can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. I go poof, yellow polka dot bikini with the sea breeze. 100 proof. First they meet me, then they treat me, then they leave.